Welcome to the Leaderonomics show, and today we have with us Rick Cotton. He is now chairman and founder of eXfuze and also the founder of Viva Kids. Rick, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Roshan.
Great to have you here.
Thank you very much.
Tell us a little bit about your background. I mean, today you're chairman and founder of eXfuze, but before we get to eXfuze, tell us a bit about how you got to where you got to.
Well, I appreciate the question. You know, I've always been an entrepreneur, been in business pretty much my entire life, but I had a great experience as a young man. I went overseas and I got the chance to work with underprivileged children. And I actually went on a trip.
Was this very early part of your career?
Yeah, it was just out of university.
Okay.
And I got a chance to go on a trip to the Ukraine.
Oh, wow.
And play American football and work with underprivileged.
So you're an American football player?
Yes, and a big fan. A wannabe, really.
Okay.
And got a chance to do that for 30 days, and it really changed my life. Is I got a chance to work with, kids that didn't have what we've grown up with, that weren't blessed like we are, and it really changed me. And I ended up staying overseas for 10 years.
In Ukraine itself, or?
I stayed there for 2 years, then Venezuela for 5 years,
Wow.
and Mexico for several years, and got a chance to work in almost 40 different countries.
Yep.
And working with underprivileged children, it taught me incredible principles about leadership and, just really giving back to the community. And so that's really how I got started.
Okay. And what would some of these principles be?
Well, number one is leadership's about serving other people. First and foremost, I think if you look at all great leaders in the world, historically or even modern age, they're servants to the community and they give back. And so that's something that we're very proud of at eXfuze, and certainly in our nonprofit organization as well.
Right. So what would some other lessons be that you learned from these little kids?
Well, I always tell people that, if you get a chance to go, and experience something like that, they'll always give you more than you're going to give them. And it's so true. And so just the contentment that they have, so I've just learned so much from the kids, working with the kids around the world, and now it's my passion. And we use business as a vehicle to be able to do more, for the world and change the place and leave it a better place.
So after you've spent 10 years in communities and so on, you started eXfuze.
Yes.
Tell us the story about eXfuze. How did that come about?
Well, it was about 9 years ago, and I was living in Mexico, and my dream, I've always been involved with direct sales. I love direct sales. It's a people business. I believe it's the perfect form to raise up leadership. I know that you're passionate about. And so, I've always been involved. I cut my teeth as a distributor in the industry and been involved, pretty much for 20-some years. And about 9 years ago, I woke up, I remember it very vividly. I said to my wife, we're going back to the United States, and we're going to build a billion-dollar company and change the world. And slowly we've been putting that pieces together, putting the right people together. And behold, we've birthed eXfuze, and now we're in countries all over the world, including this great nation of Malaysia.
So how was it challenging? I mean, the early years in terms of setting up, in terms of building the business?
Absolutely. I wouldn't recommend it to anybody.
and what were some of the challenges?
Well, it's you're dealing with people. It's a love thing. You love people, but at the same time you're dealing with people.
You just want to whip.
And so putting the right people together, I think, is the challenge, and building the right dynamics of a great team, because you have to have the right culture. You have to have the right foundation to build anything great in life, to build any kind of success. And so, that's always a challenge, and we're continuing to work at that every single day. And I always tell my leaders, around the world is, bring us the right people. Bring us people that really want to leave a mark in the world, not just, want to make money. Because money's a great tool, but that's all it should be, as a tool.
So people are important, huh?
Yeah.
Were there any failures that you've learned from, or certain challenges?
John Maxwell, one of my great mentors, taught me a long time ago to fail forward. And
fail forward.
Fail forward. And so when you get down, you got to move forward in life, and those are your best lessons. And whether it's hiring the wrong person, or making the wrong decision to go into the wrong country at the wrong time. And so there's so many different lessons, but whatever that lesson is, I think it's the best experience to learn and go forward in life and build on that experience. So
you speak about mentors. Were there many mentors in your life?
Yeah, I've been, I learned early on that you got to put yourself around the right people. Iron sharpens iron, and that's really the only way to grow as a leader, is to put yourself in the right community. And again, that's why I love this industry, because people can come into a company like ours and be developed as a people, and not just make money and drink a great product and
Right.
have their health change, but really develop as a people. And so, I learned that early on, to get the right people. And I've had people like Tony Robbins to work with me, and John Maxwell, to name a few. And so,
and you golf with John Maxwell, right?
Yeah, John.
So what was
he's
some
not
of
very good though. I'm not that's kidding.
So what were some lessons that you picked up from John and the other and some of your mentors?
Well, John taught me one of the great lessons. John taught me is that success. All leaders have goals. We talk about goals and writing goals down and commitments and affirmations and so forth. But really, your goals is the beginning. It's your daily agenda that makes the difference. It's those little things that you do every single day
that add up,
that you compound. That compound effect is something that John's really driven into me, and it certainly has paid off in my life. So I'm very grateful for that lesson. I learned it early.
And so, where are you taking eXfuze these days?
Well, we're growing rapidly. We've really, we've come through a really tough economic time as the world has been impacted, and there's a real consolidation in the direct selling industry, and we feel very fortunate that we're one of the very few companies worldwide that continues to grow and continues to expand. And so,
and why is that growth happening? Is that because of your product?
It definitely because of the product, and we have a product that is second to none that changes lives, but even more important than that is the culture and the people I think that we've built it on, and the mission. People have really gravitate. Tony Robbins talks about the 6 human needs, and one of those needs is contribution. In each and every one of us, we all want to give back, and very few people ever tap into that human need, and we've kind of built that into our culture, is that every time you're building our business, you're giving back to our kids, and not out of your pocket, but out of the corporate side.
Right.
And I think that's really impacted people. And so, and underprivileged children, if we can't get behind that vision to, then...
So tell us a little bit of Viva Kids and how eXfuze actually gives back to Viva Kids.
Yeah, when we started it, one of the mandates of the company was, 1% of our gross sales was going to go back to our kids. Now, now we're a very profitable company, and it's a little easier, and it's a big number that we give every single month. But early on, when we were selling our first bottles and we weren't making money, we were still in the red. It was a challenge. It was a real challenge, but it was something we really stayed dedicated to. That was our mission. That was our focus. And it's not off profitability. It's off the top. And someday that'll be literally hundreds of thousands of dollars every month that we're giving to kids around the world. And I think
what's Viva Kids? If you can.
It's a nonprofit organization.
Okay.
It's a 501c3 in the United States, and it's pretty stringent in the U.S. to be a nonprofit organization. And we have kids around the world, primarily in the Dominican Republic, which is one of the countries I worked in for 12 years when I lived overseas. And we also have a mission in the Philippines, in Mexico, and different projects we've seeded around the world, including right here in Malaysia. So we're really excited about that. But basically we take kids that don't have the opportunity to really even have a hot meal or have an education. We really believe strongly in education, and we take these kids all the way through high school and sometimes even into college. And so, and we try to link people with them. We try to get people involved. It's not just about writing a check every month. We have a sponsorship program where you can choose a child and sponsor a child. And so we got some really unique projects going on. We have full-time people that live in our countries, that have been doing this for 20 years, and so they know how to give money away and how to be effective, and that's an art within itself.
And it's great to see the passion coming from you when you talk about Viva Kids.
No, I appreciate it.
Obviously, you're a leader that's passionate about the community. Tell us a bit about in your instant, what do you think an ideal leader should be like?
An ideal leader? Well, I think an ideal leader is somebody that, again, wants to give back to the community, that really wants to lift other people up and let other people below them become better than them. And that's a rarity, in our cultures today. And so, and that takes a tremendous heart, and that takes getting around the right people. And that's why I like to put a culture around our business that's really going to develop leadership, every day.
So you talk a lot about people, hiring the right people, getting the right people, and so on. As a leader, are there other things that a leader should be wary about, and should be concerned about?
Well, people, what is leadership? Leadership is influencing people, right? And in today's day and age, there's good leaders and there's bad leaders. Was Hitler a leader? Absolutely, he influenced people. Therefore, he was a leader. And so, we want to put ourselves in good cultures and around the right people that are really making a difference in the world. And so, and that's again one of the reasons I love direct selling is because it cultivates leadership. And so I just was meeting in Japan. We have an incredible business in Japan. And we met with Dr. Joe and I met with a group of young men that literally were coming out of gangs and kind of a rebel lifestyle. and is they shared what eXfuze has done to them, you know, giving them a second chance in life. And so, you know, I think great leaders give people second chances, and so we're doing that with eXfuze too. So it's pretty exciting, pretty inspiring.
That's fabulous. If you know, just maybe you can ask you a couple of pieces of advice. If I was a college student, just graduated from university, what piece of advice would you give me?
That's a tough
go
one.
to direct go to direct selling.
Well, you know, I mean, direct selling is not for everybody.
Yep.
But I definitely think that, you know, sometimes we don't always get all the leadership pieces in our universities, as we know. And so, and you know, I think, you know, it teaches you how to learn and how certain principles. But I think you gotta invest in your own self. You know, John Maxwell taught me a long time ago to make my car a university. So my car does not move unless I have gasoline and a CD playing. You know, unless I'm on the phone or I have somebody else in the call, you know, in the car with me. So I think for young people, you know, get the resources. They're available now. You know, put that CD, that tape in, and really develop yourself, invest in yourself, because, you know, this real estate right here is the most important thing for all of us. So
yeah, that's true. Would you have any advice for CEOs or leaders who ultimately want to grow businesses like yours?
Join us. Well, you know, it's funny. I had a chance to meet with Rich DeVos, the founder of Amway, about a year and a half ago, I guess it was now. And you know, one of his pieces of advice was go to China. You know, and he was joking around, but you know, there's so much there. You know, I think we got to get out of our bubbles, and we got to start looking at the international world that we live in. You know, and really start to understand different cultures and different languages, and you know, really start to join arms with different cultures. And I think that's happening, obviously, in the world today. And certainly that's something we got to be open to.
Sure. Tell us maybe quickly what your business model is in eXfuze.
Well, we're a direct selling company, you know, and so we don't move any product through retail, you know, chains or anything. It's all independent distributors. And you know, we have a very unique opportunity that's associated with that. And a lot of people join us just to consume our product. We have one of the stickiest products in the industry. And Dr. Joe, I believe, is going to speak to you about that. But you know, we move our products through, you know, independent distributors around the world, and it's an integrated compensation plan and opportunity. So, you know, somebody from Malaysia can go to Japan or build a business in the United States and so forth. And so
it enables other people to become entrepreneurs also.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's the purest form of capitalism, I think, that there is. And so it's a great business for entrepreneurs, and I think there's an entrepreneur in all of us.
Final question. What advice would you give entrepreneurs?
Work hard. You know, you got to be determined, and you got to find your passion. You know, you got to find something that you're passionate about, and money's not it. You know, money is just a means to that end. You know, so you got to really develop your why. What is it that's going to drive you, and you know, drive you through those disappointments when people say no, and you can't get those investors, and you hire the wrong person, and relationships go wrong. And so there's got to be a driving force within each and one of us. And so we really try to bring that out in people. You know, what is your passion? What's really going to drive you through the next day?
Fabulous. I've been speaking to Rick Cotton, Chairman and Founder of eXfuze. Rick, thanks for being here with us.
Thank you. It's my pleasure, privilege, and honor. Thank you.